Hey, this is DJ Gus the Bus. You can tune in to Dungeons Without Dragons on Mondays, 4 to 5 p.m. at WMTS Murfreesboro.
Snake, what are you doing? Colonel, I'm trying to sneak around. Snake, what are you doing? Colonel, I'm trying to sneak around, but I'm listening to WMTS, and the blast from my AirPods keeps alerting the guards. You're listening to 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride.
Looking for something to keep your Thursday afternoon occupied? Look no further than The Crash on 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro. With a shifting weekly theme, we play everything from indie rock to hyperpop to video game soundtracks. My name's Taylor, and you can find me live every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. Hope to see you there.
Hey, this is Greta Van Fleet, and you're listening to 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro.
WMTS programming is made possible by contributions to our station from listeners like you. Thank you.
Hey, this is Greta Van Fleet, and you're listening to 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro.
This is the 24/48 show, hosted by Adam Brown, produced by Connor Smith.
Welcome in to the 24/48 show. My name is Adam Brown. My producer is Connor Smith. Connor, how are we doing today?
Man, I am phenomenal, Adam. I'm way better than last week.
It is 6 o'clock here in Murfreesboro, which means we are live on WMTS at the Center for Innovation and Media at the beautiful campus of Middle Tennessee State University. And Connor, unfortunately, I can't come in here completely happy. It's just become a curse. And last week, you made a joke that we need to have a rant segment at the beginning of every show. That's, in my opinion, that's kind of overblown. But we are naturally having a rant segment at the beginning of every show. So maybe I should just concede and we should just have an actual rant segment. But this week, in our unofficial rant segment, we might just call it that. We'll call the official rant segment the unofficial rant segment.
I like it.
This week is the new clock rules in college football, and I've had enough. I'm first and foremost, before any other sport, a college football fan. And when they announced these rules in the offseason, if you don't know, what used to be the case was when an offense got a first down, the clock would stop. And people, casuals, as I and Josh Pate like to call them, complained about the length of college football games. It was the same people that were complaining about the length of baseball games, and I'm sure diehard baseball fans hated that.
Yep.
But the fix that they used for baseball was a pitch clock. So pitchers were taking too long to throw the ball in between game action. So there was no game action happening, and it was causing the actual game to last longer because you were waiting around for the pitcher to throw the ball. And what these geniuses came up with for the college football fix is no more clock stopping when an offense gets a first down outside of the last 2 minutes of both halves. And if you're a casual football fan, then you're probably happy with that. You're like, oh, good, the clock's going to run faster, so I don't have to watch a 3-hour game. People like myself and Connor knew that that was a terrible idea, because the difference between the baseball fix and the college football fix is college football, you're taking away actual game action. You're not speeding up the process that has nothing to do with the game in between action. If you were going to do that, you would take away the halftime show, which I know people fall on different sides of that, but halftime in college does seem to be a little bit longer than the NFL, because you have the band and all that kind of stuff that goes on, but that's part of it. That's part of the tradition. That's part of the reason that people like college football so much, and part of the reason that people like me, while it's not the main reason, it adds to the aura that makes college football better than other sports, in my opinion. Connor, I don't know how you feel.
I absolutely hate the new clock rule, because, we're not stupid. It's for the money, for the commercials, and for the companies to come in and revenue more money, or bring in more revenue. Sorry, had a brain fart. But I don't like it, because it takes away possessions from what actually matters, and that's the football game, and these players that don't have as many chances to go in there and score. So I'm not a fan of it at all.
It's The Athletic did a piece on it that I saw this week, where they did the numbers, and it came out that you're losing an average of 6 minutes of runtime with a loss of 6 plays, and the teams collectively are down 0.3 possessions a game. And that doesn't sound bad on its face, but there's also, they phrased it in kind of a combative way of people to people like me, and there's been no uptick in commercials. How is that possible?
It's not possible.
That's not possible.
Definitely.
Because if there's been no uptick, there's definitely not been less, because everything is about money. So if it's the same amount of commercials, follow me here, if it's the same amount of commercials with less time and less football, that means it's more commercials by comparison, because you're getting the same amount with less football. And you can't tell me there's not more commercials, because when I'm sitting in Neyland Stadium and the guy with the red hat walks out and his big video board says 3 minutes and 30 seconds of ads, when the most it used to be was 2:45 or 2:30, how are you telling me there's not more ads? So, this is one of those things where stats don't tell the whole story. Where a lot of times when people give you a stat, it makes more sense to look at it per capita or per whatever. Don't just take pure averages. And I think this is one of those situations, because if there's the same amount of commercials and they admit less football, 0.3 possessions doesn't sound like a whole lot until that 0.3 ends up being the game-winning drive. But there's less football, same amount of commercials, everything's about the money, and we were lied to. We were lied to, because their justification for it was to speed up the game. And not only did it not speed up the game, because we're still there for 3.5 hours, but it took away from the reason that we wanted to be in that seat for 3.5 hours. I didn't want to sit there for 3.5 hours to watch this guy walk out with a red hat on and hold up a video board. That's not why I'm paying for tickets. That's not why I'm sitting in that seat for that long. That's not why I'm driving to Knoxville and back every Saturday. I'm there to see football. And I don't care if that's 6 plays. I don't care if that's 17 plays. I want football. I don't care about your ads. And if you want more ads, run more ads, but don't take away from my football.
Yeah, absolutely. And in week 1, Chip Kelly, the UCLA head coach, they had 4 drives in the first half. 4. He said, and I quote, "Hope you guys are selling a lot of commercials." And he's absolutely right, because 4 drives in one half is absolutely awful. And you have teams that are slower than them, like at Kentucky, that could run him just maybe 2, at the max 3, which is taken away from the points being scored and better football games for us.
And I say that 17 wasn't a random number. I said 17 because if you do the math over the last 2 years, Tennessee's offense, 6 minutes, they would be averaging, in 6 minutes, they would be averaging 17.64 plays. So for a team like Tennessee that goes fast, you're taking away multiple drives, not 0.3 drives, multiple drives per game.
At least 2.
And just in a vacuum, these stats that they're using might work, but when you, specifically Tennessee, and I know it's an outlier because they go so fast, but in the Austin Peay game, I counted, we were right at 10 minutes on the game clock. There had been 10 minutes, there's 10 minutes left in the first quarter. I had added up the timestamps on the video board when the red hat came out on the field. With 5 minutes gone in the game, because we're at 10, so 5 minutes have gone from the 15-minute quarter. We had 5 minutes and 40 seconds of TV time for a game that wasn't on TV.
How does that happen?
It was on the ESPN Plus, like SEC Network Plus subscription that you can only watch through the app because it was Tennessee Austin Peay. And yet we still had more commercial time than time, not time off the clock. We had more commercial time than time that had come off the clock. Not even game time. Like, just time off the clock. We had more commercial time. That blows my mind.
How in the world does that happen? Like I don't know, especially with like an ESPN Plus type thing. Like you would think even less people would watch. They wouldn't run as many ads. Like who was watching? Unless you're a Vols fan, who's watching that?
Well, Tennessee does usually have better TV numbers than a lot of fan bases, but I don't think they're specifically like, oh, we got to really load the ads up for the Tennessee Austin Peay game. Which means if it's that bad for that, who knows what it's going to be on Saturday for a primetime game against South Carolina. I noticed it against Florida too, and that was the ESPN primetime game, and it was every time it was 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And I have a friend that's an Ohio State fan, and he was watching Ohio State Notre Dame on Saturday, and I was driving back from Neyland, and he texted me. He was like, dude, you're not going to believe this, you got to call me. And I called him, and he broke it down for me going into halftime. There was a timeout followed by a commercial break. They ran one play, and then they kicked a field goal. And then he said from his perspective on his TV, you couldn't even see if the field goal was good because of the CGI Allstate ad in between the goalposts. So they've run two plays, one of them being a field goal that you couldn't see the outcome for. And then there's another commercial break. They come back, they do a kickoff after the score. Notre Dame kneels, right to halftime, more commercials. So there was just as many commercials as there was segments of football, and it wasn't segments of football as in a drive, it was a play and a kick and a kick. It was one play, one field goal, and a kick, and all commercials.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even just 3 or 4 years ago, whenever you would see like a coach call a timeout, and it would be like a 30-second commercial break. Now they call it, and it's at least 2.5, 3 minutes, and you know that's at least 15 minutes that's taken away with commercials that they don't have to have.
The best is when they get you with the pregame show is over, so now we're gonna go to break, and then we'll take you to kickoff. And then they kick the ball off,
and then go to commercial break. Yeah, it makes no sense.
That makes me want to throw the remote through my TV. That specific sequence is like one of my main pet peeves in life, which I guess is good news for me if that's like the number one thing that bothers me. But that's how much I love college football.
I know, I feel you, brother.
So we are going to break some news here. I think Tennessee just announced that they are in fact doing dark mode on Saturday. There was some drama today on Twitter going back and forth with some fans wanted to do Checker Neyland, other fans wanted to do dark mode. I saw some people said that they wanted to do a dark mode stadium, like a blackout. And then there were others that did not want to do any alternates and just wanted to wear the orange and white. And I did pull it up just now. Tennessee Football, the actual account, just tweeted initiate dark mode. Really cool graphics. So they are wearing the black jerseys this weekend.
You know, I think what they need to do is wear the black jerseys with the orange helmets just to get back at SC for what they did last year.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
Nice meme.
And I wouldn't be upset if we never saw the orange helmet again. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So speaking of Tennessee got a nice win against UTSA on Saturday. Don't let anybody tell you that UTSA is a bad team. That's a top-tier group of 5 opponent. And luckily, Tennessee didn't have to play against Frank Harris, who is one of the better quarterbacks in college football, in my opinion. I don't think that would have made things interesting, but it would have been interesting to watch. But I was happy with the final score. 45 is a good point total for Tennessee, who had been struggling. You know, it's not the 50s that they were scoring with Hooker, but 45 is nice for a team that was struggling going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, this is not just some nobody scrub. This is a good football team. And it was really never close. They were up 31-0 at halftime. The backups kind of came in the second half, so it could have been a lot worse, but they play a lot better. What surprised me was the run game was much better. Against Florida, I think it was like 3 yards per carry. They tripled that on Saturday, which is a big part of why they won the game that big.
Yeah, all the running backs had a great day, but nobody had a better day than Dylan Sampson, who did not get a touch against Florida. People were very confused why he didn't get a touch against Florida, and he was one of those people because he put a picture of a caged cheetah on his Instagram story the week after the game, and obviously that's just how he feels. And the coaching staff, I'm not going to say they played him because of that, but he got his due. He got his touches on Saturday, and he made the most of them. He had 139 yards on 11 touches with 2 touchdowns, averaged 12.6 yards per carry. And like we said, that's not a scrub team. It is, Tennessee is the better team, but when you average 12.6 yards per carry, you're moving.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So the Cheetah was let out of the cage against UTSA, and I do believe that he has made a case for RB1 moving forward, which that is not a slight on Jabari Small or Wright in any way, shape, or form. Both of those guys are really good running backs. That just shows how deep this running back room is, that there's somebody who can jump both of those guys over the course of a couple games, because Small and Wright would both be RB1 or 2 on just about every SEC team, I think. Maybe not Ole Miss, but I can't think of another team where they wouldn't be in the conversation for running back 1 or 2. So Dylan Sampson's a dog, and he's gonna have a really big opportunity on Saturday to kind of solidify that role that he's kind of carved out for himself and push for, hey, like, it's me time,
Yeah. Now here's a question for you, Mr. AB. D. Samp, he had a really good first game. Then the next 2 games they didn't really play him too much, and they had obviously what he did on Saturday. Do you think they'll go back to like a more like by committee type backfield, or they'll give Dylan Sampson his carries and then say, okay, we can get Jabari Small and Jalen Wright mixed in there?
I think the reason, some people that wanted to make, not excuses, just observations about like maybe why he's not playing, is the touchdowns that he scored against Virginia, they weren't. They were close to the end zone. Like pretty much any of the running backs that took that carry, you can say probably would have scored. But some players, they just have a nose for the end zone, and he's one of those dudes. Because I'm not sure if he had I don't know how many carries he had in the first game, but his carry to touchdown ratio right now has to be through the roof. Oh, yeah. And some people just have that it. Like, you give them the ball enough times, and they're going to find the end zone. And Dylan Sampson is just, he's one of those guys. And the way that I've been describing Tajay Spears when we got into the Henry Tajay conversation, Dylan Sampson is that guy. Dylan Sampson is that we need to make sure that he touches the ball X amount of times per game. Whatever the coaching staff feels that number is, he needs to have that many touches per game, or else you're doing a disservice to your football team by not allowing him to have a shot at affecting the game.
Yeah, this kind of thing reminds me kind of like of back in the Butch Jones era, not to, rub you the wrong way, but with Kamara, he should have been getting a lot more carries than what he did. They didn't give him as many carries, but when they did, he kind of popped off. I just hope they don't do this to Dylan Sampson, because Dylan's a really talented running back.
Yeah, just weapon is the word that comes to mind for both of those guys. It's just their whole game is just they are an offensive weapon. Speaking of offensive weapons, Joe Milton opened the game with an 80-yard touchdown run. You don't usually see that from your 6'4", 240, whatever he is, quarterback.
Tank.
But once he got going, he was moving. Nobody was catching Joe. That was a heck of a run. And you could just see, it was kind of like a couple games ago when Ruse, I think it's Ruse, I thought it was Ruse, I think it's Ross. I think I had it backwards. Ross, the punter, hit that really nice punt, and his confidence, you could just see it just shot up through the roof. And he's been solid since. And I thought that was going to be that moment for Joe, because after that run, he was just playing. He wasn't thinking, he was just feeling. And that was why they were up 31-0 at half, is they were just kind of out there balling. And then that lull that came in the second half, that came after Joe got shaken up. His knee injury, that's a real thing. He got tackled from behind. it was a tackle that last year some people were talking about trying to take out of the game. There's not really a realistic way to do that, but it is kind of a dangerous tackle. You kind of tense up whenever you see somebody get drugged down from behind like that, because when the tackler's legs flip out in front of the guy that they're dragging down, you're almost guaranteed to land on the ball carrier's legs. Joe got turned his knee a little bit. He was down for a minute. It looked like it might be bad, and then he popped up and jogged to the sideline and was back out there the next possession. So I think he did have a brace on after that. He did get an MRI, but that's not unusual.
No.
So they'll need him to be healthy on Saturday, but it shouldn't be too much of a concern. I think he just got rolled up a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay, because he was borderline elite against UTSA. I know it's UTSA, but the man had about 300 total yards with 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. I'd like to see him a little better on the passing game wise to compete with like the big dogs like the Georgias and Bamas and Ohio States of the world, but he was much better than last week.
If that lull doesn't happen in the second half, we're talking about a quintessential Joe Milton game where he made some huge plays and he missed some easy ones, and that you just have to take that with Joe. Like, that comes with Joe. He's going to have the 80-something yard touchdown run, and he's going to miss Squirrel White over the middle. I did it again. I said preseason show, Squirrel White. That is so hard to say when you're moving through this. He missed Squirrel White over the middle with a slant that would have been a touchdown. But if it's somebody else, you maybe don't have that super long touchdown run to open the game on the first snap. So you got to take what you get with Joe. I think it's, in my opinion, when Cooper Mays comes back, and that's going to be huge for the South Carolina game if he's back. If the O-line can kind of solidify, you're going to get more of the good Joe than the bad Joe. And that's just my observation from what I've seen so far this season. When he has time, he always has the misses, but he always has the makes too. And I think when he has time consistently, it's going to be more makes than misses. And once we get Cooper back, once Cooper is back in the fold on the O-line, Cooper Mays at center, we will know what this Tennessee team is for sure moving forward. And I really hope that it's Saturday, because I'm tired of not knowing. I want to know. I just want to know so I can be prepared. I want to stop going into the games on Saturday being like, I don't know, because once Cooper's back, we will know, because there will be no more excuses. It will be on Joe, and I have the confidence that he's going to be able to handle it.
Absolutely.
The defense, though, played well in the first half, obviously a shutout, but then the second half they just came out flat. More missed tackles. That seems to be a trend with this team. I think they're really missing Peely, who got hurt in the first game. But overall, it's on the secondary, and we talked about it last week. The secondary is just they're playing soft. They're missing tackles. Receivers seem to just kind of find space really easily. And I know that happens, but usually when that happens, they're met. They they find space. Maybe it's a zone defense, whatever. They find space, they catch the ball, but then somebody's there. And it seems like for Tennessee that it takes a minute for somebody to be there. So it's like, if you're not with him, where were you? So I'd like to see the coverage get a little tighter. If this keeps up, I don't know how you keep Willie Martinez as the secondary coach. And I don't think you keep a coach just for recruiting purposes. I don't know how much you definitely don't. I shouldn't say I think. You definitely do not. I don't know how much weight he holds in this secondary class that Tennessee has coming in. That's pretty talented. I think it would give an instant boost to the secondary room. But if he can't coach, he can't coach, and then you would just be wasting those guys that are coming in.
Yeah, well, and then it's been happening 2 years in a row now. The Tennessee front seven is let's just cut the chase. They're elite. They are a really good front seven, but the secondary is completely ruining what they're doing. I mean, if they were to get just a competent and good secondary, they're easily one of the better defenses in the SEC and maybe the country.
Because here's the thing: the passes that UTSA was completing, the passes that Florida was completing, they weren't deep shots. They weren't bombs. And so the quick passing game is really, really working against the secondary, and it's not giving those guys up front time to do what they do. So if you can cover for another second, 2, 3, then that gives guys like Harrison and Pierce, it gives them time to do what they need to do up front. If you're letting every single slant get completed in less than 1.5 seconds, it's a 3-step drop and the ball's out, they don't have time to affect the game.
Yeah, well, they played very well this week. They had 3 turnovers and 4 sacks and 7 TFLs. But like you said, if it's getting out, I mean, they have no choice but to just try to cover the pass, and they cannot get to the quarterback or stop the run. Like right against Florida, they started completing some little slant passes, got the defense on their heels, and then Trevor Etienne was able to just bust some runs up the middle because the Tennessee front seven couldn't just focus on the running game and the quarterback.
If I had to guess, I'd say South Carolina's game plan is definitely going to be quick passes and probably get Rattler on the move, because if they've got him moving, if the ball is not coming out quick and the alternative is he's on the move, I don't see Tennessee secondary being able to handle that very well at all. But South Carolina opens as an 11-point underdog. Coming back from the UTSA game, I was listening to Fan Run's Voluntary Reaction X Space, and they asked that question, is where do you think the line will open up? And I immediately thought Tennessee -3, and that's what the guys on that show thought too. And then it comes out the next day that it's Tennessee -11, and it's moved to Tennessee -12.5 since then. Usually when something weird like this happens, my first thought is Vegas always knows, because Vegas doesn't lose in the long run. But nearly a 2-touchdown underdog is kind of crazy for two teams that I feel like Tennessee's the better team, but they're not a 2-touchdown better team.
They may be like talent-wise, but also, I mean, South Carolina, that's a bad fit for Tennessee, just like the way they play. But I don't know how they were that big of an underdog, because they came out and they beat a pretty solid Mississippi State team last week, and then hung there with Georgia, lost by 10 points. And I get it's in Neyland, but Tennessee's not been – they've shown flashes, but they've not put a consistent special game together yet. So I don't see how you can say it's a 2-touchdown favorite for Tennessee.
I think Tennessee's better than Mississippi State too. Yeah. So if you want to kind of look at it big picture, because I'm coming from a perspective of really being locked in on Tennessee's weaknesses. So if you want to try and act like you're Vegas and big picture, where would you set it? I could see like a 6-point underdog for South Carolina, like, just less than a touchdown, like just try to get people to, hit that 7. But 11 is crazy, and that just makes me wonder how many of those points are for the Neyland advantage. I think you usually give the home team 2 points. So if it was at 11, that means they're looking at Tennessee as a 9-point favorite, and you really wouldn't set a line. I guess you would set a line at 9. So they're saying Tennessee's a touchdown and a field goal better than South Carolina. So really, if you break it down, I could see that's kind of fair. Yeah, I could see that. Personally, I wouldn't put that there, just because this game has so much energy that, like, if the home team jumps on that energy, they can blow the other team out. But if the away team jumps on it, then it's going to be a close game. So it's going to depend on who captures that. If Tennessee captures that energy early, or South Carolina shuts it down.
Yeah, I really think it relies on how Tennessee secondary can hold up against the Rattler passing game, because Carolina, their run game is abysmal. They average about 2 yards per carry, and their defense it's so-so. I think Tennessee will score some points, but if they can kind of neutralize Rattler and hold them to like 21, 24 points, it's game over.
Yeah, for sure. I'm getting, as far as the stadium goes, this does feel really similar to the 2021 Ole Miss game, where everybody's had this one circled, especially just with what happened last year with South Carolina essentially keeping Tennessee out of the playoff, and Hooker going down, which isn't their fault, but that plays into it.
Yeah.
And just all the fan interactions that come with that, and I'm not saying the whole South Carolina fan base is this way, but you always have those in every fan base, including Tennessee's, that makes it about that injury, and they rub that in your face. And Hooker was a really special player, so that hurt for a lot of people, and they're looking at this game as kind of a revenge game. So definitely feels like the build up to the 2021 Ole Miss game, and I'm expecting Neyland to be loud, especially with the blackout.
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to last year with Bama, maybe even a little better. But you said during our preseason show that if Tennessee is only focused for one game this year, it'll be this game.
It is this one. If there is no other game that they're focused for the rest of the season, and based on how they went to the Swamp, it seems like that could be the case, they will be focused for this one. I think the key on both sides of the ball is for Tennessee, get the running game going on offense and get pressure on Rattler on defense. If they can do those two things,
It's over.
the whole game is going to be blown out because pressure on Rattler could make him, he'll have some mistakes. If you give him a clean pocket, that's where he's effective. Because Rattler is an athlete. He wasn't great at Oklahoma, but since coming to South Carolina, he's done a pretty good job. So if you give him a clean pocket, he's going to hurt you, especially with this secondary. So getting pressure on him and making him uncomfortable is going to be the key for the defense. And on offense, they got to get the running game going. That'll take some pressure off Joe. So really the trend here is put pressure on Rattler, take it off Joe, and let Joe be the better quarterback on Saturday night. And Dylan Sampson could be a huge piece in that getting the running game going that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the offense. I mean, they're going to get theirs. They're going to score 30+, which should be enough to win. But we saw week one whenever Rattler was pressured quite a bit. I think North Carolina had, 9 or 10 sacks? And they scored, I think, three or 6 points. I mean, they were just awful. So I think with how loud Nealon is, if you come out there the first few plays and you blitz him and he gets rattled with the noise and he's getting hit, that's going to set the tone of the game.
I want to know what the over-under would be set at for false start penalties on South Carolina's O-line. Because if you're getting blitzed and you're getting beat and you can't hear, that's when you start making those mental errors.
I mean, last year Bama and Tennessee, that's what beat Bama because they got rattled the first quarter. Tennessee showed blitz and they got to Bryce Young a couple of times and the offensive line just couldn't handle it.
We are up against our midway break, but when we come back, Titans fans, I've got a familiar name that I'm going to bring up. Might be Dennis Daly. We don't know.
Maybe worse.
Could be. We'll see when we come back.
Hey, this is DJ Gus the Bus. You can tune in to Dungeons Without Dragons on Mondays, 4 to 5 p.m. at WMTS Murfreesboro.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
WMTS programming is made possible by contributions to our station from listeners like you. Thank you.
Historic news from Murfreesboro tonight as the first ever contact with extraterrestrials was made. Their message? WMTS is out of this world.
Are you searching for a show with a wide variety of music? I'm Kate, and on my show Etc., you'll hear anything from current indie to 80s new wave. You can tune in from noon to 2 p.m. Fridays to hear all of that and more, only on WMTS Murfreesboro.
What's up? This is DJ P-Dacious, and if you're a fan of old school music, whether it's hip-hop, R&B, jazz, pop, or rock, you can tune in to Good Vibes Radio Wednesdays from 3 to 4 on WMTS Murfreesboro.
Does it ever seem like everybody's letting you down?
My girlfriend just left me for my roommate. They kicked me out of the apartment.
Does it feel like there's no one you can rely on?
My lab partner didn't turn in half of our project, and now we're gonna get an F.
Does it feel like you can't put your faith in anybody these days?
What? The internet is down again? I have to register for classes in 5 minutes! My life is ruined!
Not to worry, keep it tuned right here to 88.3 WMTS. Noise you can trust.
You're listening to
WMTS 88.3 Murfreesboro.
Welcome back into the 2448 show. I'm your host, Adam Brown. My producer is Connor Smith. And here at this show, we would like to send a formal good job to whoever made that Def Leppard ad there, because that gets me fired up every week. And I know you can take the normal lyrics from the song and put those in there, but somebody had to sing the WMTS portion and make it sound like Def Leppard and then put that in there. So great job, whoever did that.
Fantastic.
I have not been told, but I want to find out. So we teased this going into the break, familiar name for the Titans. And that was not a joke when I said Dennis Daly. I am actually about to talk about Dennis Daly. I know that all Titans fans probably thought they would never have to hear his name again, but here we are. And the reason I'm bringing him up is because Andre Dillard is statistically playing worse than Dennis Daly. And I know that shouldn't be possible. That's such a low bar. How could he possibly do worse? We made all these jokes about how we could put literally T-Rack out there and he would play better than Dennis Daly. It turns out the Titans successfully found someone who is worse than Dennis Daly. Based on pressures and quarterback sacks, the rate at which Andre Dillard is allowing those, he would triple Dennis Daly's statistics from last season. Triple.
Adam, we talked earlier about the numbers in depth, and I think Andre Dillard is on pace for 34 sacks. How is that possible? Most teams in the NFL don't get sacked 34 times in a season, and that's one guy by himself.
One guy by himself is going to allow that many. Coming off last season, I didn't think it was possible to be worse on the O-line, which is why I thought, and I still stand by this, I think D-Hop is a difference in probably 3 games that the Titans win that they wouldn't without him. Mm-hmm. I think he's that big of a game changer and a changer as far as the defensive mindset for the other team. And so, in my head, I'm thinking, well, it can't possibly get worse than Dennis Daly, so there's really you can only go up, so Tannehill should have more time. That is not what's happening. And the play calling is being affected. Everything's being affected. I said this last week. The O-line as a unit is 1B behind quarterback at 1A and most important positions on the field, because the O-line affects everything. They affect everything on the team. It's the least praised, the least high profile. It's the least everything as far as coverage and media and all that goes, but it's the second most important position on the field.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because the quarterback, obviously number one, but I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're Tom Brady. If you don't have a good old line behind you, you can't do anything. And that's not to say that Tannehill is a good quarterback. His name is Trashahill. He is not good, but he can't even be average. Or same with Derrick Henry without an O-line, and they've just been abysmal this year.
The O-line was so bad that I didn't really even look at Tannehill that much. But I saw some videos today where they prefaced it with, yes, the O-line is terrible, and yes, the pressure's in his face quickly. But there was tons of room in this specific play. There was tons of room where if he just moves out to his right, just shows any kind of athleticism whatsoever or any type of creativity in the pocket, he steps out to the side and then he has a receiver wide open down the sideline. And so for somebody like, you said, I don't care if it's Tom Brady back there. If it was Patrick Mahomes back there, that play was a touchdown because all he has to do is escape out to his right. But just like Joe Milton, I do not think it's fair to put everything on Tannehill. I think Tannehill is more of the problem to the Titans than Joe is for the Vols, if that makes sense. But it's still not fair to put all of it on Tannehill when he has less than a second to get the ball out of his hands. And so because of that, same thing with the Vols, the play calling is being affected by the O-line's weakness. The play calling is handcuffed to an anchor that is Andre Dillard, and they are sinking because he is so heavy and weighing them down with how terrible he is. And here we are still cleaning up J-Rob's draft mess. They whiffed on 3 O-linemen, and here we are still cleaning up the O-line.
Yeah, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but once again, this is why you take a O-lineman in the second round or a position of need and not a quarterback. But no, I mean, even last year when the line was bad, Tannehill still he was a decent to average quarterback, and everyone thought, including myself, hey, it can't be as bad as last year. And this year's O-line for the Titans said, hold my beer.
Which was reasonable. That's a reasonable take, that it can't possibly be worse.
And they said, hold my beer.
Because we assumed that they would address this obvious glaring weakness. And what did they do? They go and draft a guard. They draft a guard in the first round and a quarterback in the second. I don't know what offensive linemen were available in the second round when they drafted Will Levis. I think we looked at it in the preseason show.
A lot were available.
But there were some good ones.
Yeah.
Or at least not. If they weren't good, they're better than Andre Dillard. And I will take better than Andre Dillard right now because this is a great example. I've got two really good examples of how bad this O-line is. There was a play where wherever Myles Garrett lined up, two tight ends went in motion to be on that side of the formation so they could double or even triple team him. And he figured this out, and being the good football player that he is, continued to switch back and forth. And the Titans can't snap the ball until all of their players have been set on the line. I know you can have a receiver or running back in motion as long as they're going sideways, but your linemen have to be set for at least a second, I believe. And so Myles Garrett continued to move back and forth until the Titans were going to take a delay of game. They were either going to have to take a delay of game, take a timeout, or let Myles Garrett have a one-on-one to Tannehill. And so the Titans had to call a timeout because of one player on the other team. One player on the other team caused the Titans to use one of their 3 timeouts because they had to have 2 tight ends follow him.
Yeah, that just hurts everybody because we talked last week about some like the Titans, like Chig might be able to hurt the Browns because of the receiving threat he is, might be open on a seam or on a crosser, but whenever you have to have him blocking because the O-line is that bad, they can't even double cover or even just single block him for just a few seconds. That takes Chig out of the equation. That takes the running backs out of the equation. Everything's just messed up.
And then even if you do try to get Chig the ball, there's no way Tannehill has time for a deep seam or a deep post. There's just no time. But like just that level of incompetence to where, and I know Myles Garrett's a great football player, and I'm not saying he's not, but one person on the other team should not make it so that you can't even snap the ball.
No.
That's crazy. And kudos to him for realizing that and just moving back and forth because he was like, I'm going to cause a timeout here or a delay of game on his own just from moving side to side. So, I mean, that was a really heady play by him before the ball was even snapped to continue to just terrorize and torture the Titans offense. But the second example that we have for just how bad the O-line was on Sunday, how many yards did Derrick Henry average per carry?
About 1.8, and that was counting his 9-yard run. If you take out his 9-yard run, he had 11 yards on 10 carries, which is 1.1 yards per carry.
1.1 yards per carry. And A to Z Sports had a stat that said that Henry was being hit on average 7 feet behind the line of scrimmage. So Derrick, on average, was being hit 7 feet behind the line of scrimmage and still averaged positive yards. So whenever you see Derrick Henry's stat line from Sunday, don't let anybody tell you that was on Derrick, because it wasn't. Derrick scrounged positive yards out of being absolutely bullied in the backfield. So I would love to see his yards after contact. And obviously the way that the stats work is if he got hit 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then he fought to 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage, that's still a net -2. I would love to see how many yards he moved forward, positive gain or not, after contact, because I feel like that would give us a really good idea of just how quickly he was being hit.
Yeah, that stat you just mentioned, I mean, it makes you wonder if the O-line was if they were still like letting the pass rush, get by, if they were just a little better, just average in the run department, how much different this game would be. Because if you can run the ball, that opens up the pass game, and then vice versa. So that right there, making them one-dimensional was huge in the win for the Browns.
It's just crazy to me that, and we've already been talking about this the whole time, but it's just crazy to me that it was possible to get worse. That did not seem possible because the O-line was so bad last season. It was probably one of the worst O-lines I've ever seen in all the years that I've watched football, and yet they have found a way to take the worst player on that O-line and replace him with someone worse. That blows my mind.
If someone told you last year that you would take Joe out of the lineup and they'd be even worse, what would your reaction be?
The same reaction that I'm having right now, that I can't possibly believe that that's true, but here we are. So the Titans have the Bengals coming up next. So if Myles Garrett didn't torture Tannehill enough, he's going to have a whole week of watching film on the defense that basically signified the end of his effective Titans career in the playoffs when he threw 3 interceptions. And somehow, there's another example of can't believe it. He managed to have a worse game than that against the Saints this year. So the Titans are just exceeding expectations in all the worst ways possible. But Titans have the Bengals up next. I'm not expecting... I think we all got a little too high on our horse after that Chargers win. I have low expectations for this game, and I'm going to continue to have low expectations after this game. I don't care if they win by 35.
Yeah, I mean, after that Chargers win, we were thinking ourselves, maybe this team can win the division, make the playoffs. But after the last game, it's just, I don't know much to say about it. That was just pitiful.
The division's so bad they still possibly could make the playoffs, but not by any good graces of their own. It'll be that they squeaked into the playoffs because the Jags dropped 5 games that they weren't supposed to, and Tennessee has a couple more games like that Chargers game where they win as the underdog because Tannehill or Henry plays out of their mind and makes up for the terrible O-line play. But it's weird how similar these two situations are with the Vols and the Titans, and yet so different because Tennessee's waiting on Cooper Mays to come back, and the Titans are waiting on Nicholas Ferrer to come back from his 6-game suspension. Except for the difference here in my mind. And also, to be fair, they were missing Skoronski. He had appendicitis. But in my mind, the addition of Cooper to the Vols O-line makes a whole world of difference, because the Vols have good offensive linemen. They're just having to rotate and play different positions right now because their starting center is out. The Titans don't have talent on the O-line, so I don't care who you add back. You don't have guys. You don't have the dudes.
No, I mean you can coach good guys if they have talent to be better, but if they can't play, they can't play, and that's the issue with Tennessee. They're facing a pretty good defense this week. I mean it's a solid defense, but I think they also could make this competitive just because of how bad Joe Burrow's been this year in the passing game, because going into this Week 3 game, their leading receiver is T. Higgins with 89 yards. Joe Burrow has 304 yards in 2 games. So, I mean, I think Joe Burrow will get better, but at this moment in time, the Bengals and Titans look like just duplicates pretty much.
Well, the Titans have had really, I don't want to say luck, because it's not lucky that Nick Chubb got injured the way that he did, but the Titans have caught a break where in every game so far this year they haven't had to play one of the other team's star players, because Kamara was suspended for the opener, and then Eckler didn't play in Week 2 for the Chargers, and then obviously Chubb got hurt right before the Titans played the Browns. And Joe Burrow is not 100%. So they're going to have to play him, but he's not going to be Joe Shiesty. So that's another break that the Titans caught, but so far they haven't been able to take advantage of it, in my opinion. Sure, they beat the Chargers, but how much would that game have been different if Austin Eckler was there? I don't think that much.
No, because the running back the Chargers had, he still got his. He played decent, but I mean, I don't know, that run defense is the only thing I think can keep the Titans in this game, because they have Joe Mixon, which is obviously an elite running back, but that front seven they've shut down the Chargers and the Browns with back-to-back weeks.
If Burrow can't move, I think that's a positive for Jeff Simmons, Harold Landry, Arden Key. But again, another similarity between the Titans and the Vols. I think the way that the Bengals fix that is quick passing game, because the Titans' corners have not been very effective, and you're not really worried about Byard and Hooker if you're getting the ball out in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And I also don't think the Titans have very good linebackers. I think the Vols have better linebackers, relative to college football and pro football. I think the Vols have better linebackers than the Titans do. I'm not a believer in Jack Gibbons or Dr. Gibby, whatever they call him, their middle linebacker. I saw him specifically on one play where the running back had a ball. It was a sweep, and he had a lead blocker, and Jack Gibbons took 2 steps towards taking an inside lane, realized that the running back was faster than him, stopped, turned, and then took an upfield angle and made the tackle. Jeez. So I'm not a big believer in this Titans linebacker room. I do think the Vols have a better linebacker situation with Aaron Carter and Elijah Herring, even though I do think they're very badly missing Peely. And when he comes back, that's another question that I think will be answered there. But yeah, if the Titans corners can just kind of hold up for 2-3 seconds and let Big Jeff and Harold Landry get back there, I think a non-mobile Joe Burrow could be a very good thing for this Titans defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the key is really the defense, honestly, because if they can neutralize Joe Mixon and make Burrow pass through there, it's kind of similar with Rattler. If they can get some quick stuff going, then it'd be a long day. But if they can go in there and they can get pressure on, like you said, hurt Joe Burrow, stop the run, or at least neutralize it, and stop that short pass, it could be a very, very low-scoring game.
I was thinking about it all week, just how oddly similar the problems for these two teams are, and yet the Vols look like those problems can be fixed, and the Titans look like it's going to be season long. And I think that's the difference, because we're talking about Tennessee, South Carolina, and we're going to do our predictions here after this break that's coming up. But I've got a relatively high-scoring game for the Vols, despite their issues. And with the Titans, they have issues at the same position groups, I think is why it's so similar. But theirs are so much more of a handcuff that I don't think the Titans can recover.
Well, the thing about it is the Vols have talent. They just have to have inexperience. They have to get in the right situations. The Titans, they have a pretty solid coaching staff. They just don't have the talent, straight up.
The Vols, it's about putting everything together, and the Titans have nothing to put together.
Yep.
I think is the issue. And I completely agree with you. I think when you have Mike Vrabel, you're in every game that you kick off. It's just eventually it comes down to he does not have the guys out there to execute what he's wanting.
Yeah.
So when we come back, we'll do a little bit more in-depth on the games coming up this weekend, and we will give you our predictions on the score and who will win. And if you notice, we talked a little bit about lines today, so if you want to take our advice, maybe put some money on it, let us know. Maybe we'll do a sports betting segment.
I like that.
Make you some money.
That. Yeah, let's do it.
Hi, this is DJ Hannah Banana on 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro. You can tune into my show, Bahana Radio, every Tuesday, 10 to 11 a.m., where I play pretty much any type of music that I'm vibing with that week. Hope to see you there.
Historic news from Murfreesboro tonight as the first ever contact with extraterrestrials was made. Their message? WMTS is out of this world.
From the depths of the earth, Operation Lifesaver is in effect as of right now.
Hi, I'm DJ LJ, the host of Operation Lifesaver every Monday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. We play soul and hip-hop and talk about the latest things going on in the music industry. Again, that's every Monday from 9 to 11 a.m. on 88.3 WMTS Murfreesboro.
WMTS programming is made possible by contributions to our station from listeners like you. Thank you.
You're listening to WMTS 88.3 Murfreesboro.
I'm going to play that promo every time.
It's outstanding. I love it.
People are going to get mad, going to get tired of it. I don't care.
Oh, well.
I love Def Leppard, and I will continue to play that promo. So, like we said, going into the break, we've got predictions for this weekend. We're not officially doing a sports betting segment, so if you take our advice on this, you can't get mad. If we start doing a sports betting segment, then you have my permission to be mad. But until then, these are just predictions, not sports betting advice.
And no refunds.
No refunds. Okay, so Tennessee has the Gamecocks on the schedule this week. Big revenge game for Tennessee's fan base, and for, honestly, this coaching staff and these players as well. They can say they don't feel it, but they do. You know they do. This game was heartbreaking last year in more ways than one. And a defensive tackle was, I forgot which guy it was, I know he's on the defensive line, was asked about, does this game feel bigger? And he said, no, it's just, it's the biggest game because it's the game that's on the schedule this week. And, like, that's really nice, and, like, you know, that's a good mindset to have, and
but
whatever. He's lying. Yeah. They feel it. They know it. They wouldn't be pulling out the blackout jerseys if it wasn't a big deal. So, this is a big game. It's a big game for this season. It's a big game for, the trajectory of the program. Because Florida was too, and so if you lose that Florida game and then turn around and lose this game and you're 0-2 in the SEC, that's not a good sign when everybody thought, and it's not a nail in the coffin either, but it's not a great sign as far as the trajectory of the program when everybody thought it was really, really high.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this one's in Neyland. I think that's I don't think it's the main difference in the game, but I think it's a huge factor. And really, to contradict myself really quick, is if this game was away, I would probably pick South Carolina by a point or something along those lines. I feel like that's how close this game is setting up to be. It feels like one of those games. Unless the crowd really, really does just give a bad O-line fits, and they have 100 penalty yards or whatever. I don't see how this game isn't going to be close in the third. I think Tennessee could pull away in the fourth. I think South Carolina could pull away in the fourth. But I think in the third, we're still close. And my prediction for the score, because it's at Neyland, and there I go again, contradicting myself, 38-35, Vols get the win. And just to go ahead and fix that real quick, I don't think Neyland is the difference. I think Dylan Sampson is the difference, and the Vols defensive line is the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you on that one. I think Neyland makes a huge difference, but just take Neyland out of the picture. If Tennessee comes in there and they're ready to play, and the secondary is better than they were the last few weeks, and they shut down the short pass, I think it'll be a blowout. Honestly, I've not seen it yet this season, so I'm going to have to see it first before I can say that. But as of now, I have it about 38-31.
Bama fan on FM radio calling a blowout for Tennessee. You love to see it.
Only if the secondary can not be garbage. But as of now, I've got it 38-31 Vols.
I like that. Love to hear it. Titans up next. They, like I said, have not been advantageous about the breaks they've caught with star players. I expect that to continue. I don't care how banged up Joe Burrow is. The Bengals have the Titans' number, and more specifically Tannehill's number. I think he is kind of in his head with this team. I think he sees that logo, sees that jersey, and it's just things are gonna flood back. I don't think Ryan Tannehill's a mentally weak person. You can kind of tell with this team. It gets on him, and I don't think he's going to have a very good day. I don't think the O-line's going to have a very good day, and unfortunately that means nobody's going to have a good day. And I've got the Bengals winning 31-10.
Wow, that's pretty nice hearing that. It is at Tennessee, so it could be a little difficult for the Bengals to get some plays off at points. But like you said, they're not going to take advantage of Joe Burrow being partially injured. I think Joe Burrow's going to just pop out this Sunday, because he's only going to be down for so long. I mean, he's a great player, obviously. I think this is the game where he gets back from Joe Burrow to Joe Shiesty, and I've got 31-10 as well.
So this week for us, real quick, Connor, Alabama and Packers. What do you got going on this weekend?
Well, hopefully we get our guys back because we were missing our top 5 players from the Packers last week. Still managed to pull out a win, 18-17. And I'll be honest, I'm not even sure who we're playing, but we're winning the game.
He's so far on the Jordan Love hype train that he doesn't even know who the opponent is, and he's still predicting a win.
Hey, Love isn't there.
And then Alabama has Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really going to be a big challenge. It's I guess you could call it a little bit of a hostile environment, quote unquote.
Those cowbells.
I hate the cowbells. But no, Bama. I mean, last week the first half it was ugly. Sure, nothing. It was ugly. But the second half they came out and they played Bama football. They pounded the run game. They were a physical defense I've not seen since probably 2017, back when Mr. Pruitt was the DC. But I think they'll win in blowout fashion.
So this show has 2 starters on a MTSU intramural flag football team. We've got our first practice tonight. We're expecting big things, and we will keep you guys updated as the season goes along, but we're expecting a ring.
Absolutely.
We will be back next Monday with complete football weekend reaction. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you Monday.